This video shows some things to avoid when you're making newborn hats for the babies. These are just some examples, and I got my baby doll here. I'm going to show you a little bit. Um, One of the bigger things with hats is the stretch in it, and you can see there's very little stretch on the bottom of this. It's a pretty good size otherwise, but you can see as I'm trying to put it on the baby's head, I'm squeezing the baby's head. Even if I fold it up and do it, I have a hard time getting it on without hurting the baby there. So sometimes you want to avoid the smaller stitches, but you want to make sure that there's a good stretch on the bottom of the hat. Now this is a larger hat. Obviously we're going to have to roll up the cuff here because it's a little bit big for baby. But even when I stretch it a little bit, I'm having to pull it down on the baby's head, and it's kind of a little too tall, so by the time I fold up the cuff, I am squeezing the baby's head a little bit, so it's probably a little bit too large and also not enough stretch at the bottom. Again, they use kind of a small stitch at the bottom, so the stretch isn't very good on that there. This one, we talked about size. The size looks pretty good, but at the bottom again, they use single crochet where they were using double crochet, which gives a little bit more. So the bottom of the hat doesn't have as much stretch. So as I try to put it on, it's a little snug. If I turn that up before I put it on, it might work. But again, we want to make sure we're not hurting the baby's tender head at all. This one here, this is made out of 4-ply yarn, which isn't our first choice for it. But again, there's not stretch at the bottom. They used a chain stitch there. So when I go to put it on the baby's head again, I'm kind of squeezing the head. It fits fine, but to get it on the head, we're going to have a little issue there, so it's not something that's going to work very well. And then this hat, the same thing. It has a slip stitch on the bottom, so it doesn't have that stretch. We tried to put it on the baby's head, and I'm sorry to poke it in the eye there, but it's very tight and snug, and I can barely get my finger in there to get any kind of stretch at all. So those are just some issues that we have with newborn hats. Again, we want to make sure we're using baby yarn and it has a good stretch as you're putting it on the baby's head. Only use single strands of yarn, and try to use those looser and open stitches when you're making the hats.